Welcome back again, Jade.
Hello.
I say so a lot. That's my next thing, I guess. Welcome. Today, I thought I'd give you a little tidbit, a little info dump on. No, that sounds horrible. Info dump. Today, I thought I would bring you the Beaumont children.
There we go.
Have you heard of the Beaumont children?
I sure have.
I feel like everyone in Australia has. It's
Yeah.
a pretty big case that opened a lot of people's eyes
For sure.
these children were very young, 9, 7, and 4
That's
on their own.
crazy.
So I think this definitely opened a lot of parents' eyes to where they let their children go on their own and at what age. But for those that don't know the Beaumont children, they went missing from Glenelg on 26 January 1966. So this was Australia Day.
Yeah. The beach was packed.
Yeah, it would have been very easy to have been taken. And it's actually still an unsolved cold case. And I'm pretty sure that I don't know if it's called the lead investigator or whatever, whoever puts money on it, he's got $1 million
like a reward
for info on the children. He still to this day has it. I think when it first became a case, it was like $250.
Yeah.
And then obviously it's gone crazy. So the children were Jane Beaumont, who was 9 at the time. Anna, I think that's how you read it. A-R-N-A. Yep. Anna Beaumont at 7 years old. And then Grant Beaumont, who was 4 years old.
That's insane.
The children lived with their parents, Grant, who they called Jim Beaumont. He was a former serviceman and taxi driver. And then Nancy Beaumont, who I couldn't find. I think she was just stay-at-home mum.
Yeah.
They married in 1955 and they lived in Somerton Park, which is very close. It was literally, I think, one suburb over.
Yeah, it would be
it's
very
still called
close.
Somerton Park, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was back in the era when it was so normal to let your child wander around without adults to wherever they wanted, suburbs over, without you even knowing where they went.
The kids just,
but it was just
catching
normal.
the tram and going off to the beach was just a normal day.
Yeah, but this case is, like I said, what opened a lot of people's eyes, because throughout the whole process of them disappearing, the cops looking, everyone looking for the children, the years worth of not knowing what's happened to them, I don't believe anyone ever criticised the mum and dad for being bad parents. It's not that. Because it was so normal to let your children go.
Yeah. And I think that's the hard thing too when you go back and you look at cases now that happened all that time ago. Quite often, and I've done it myself, you go, why would you let them do that? It was a different world.
It was such a different era, yeah.
And they wouldn't have been the only kids there that day on their own.
Yeah. As soon as they went missing and got media attention, it was never... the eyes were never on the mum and dad, of neglect or why did they do this or...
Yeah.
It was always
just a normal day.
It started with the day before. It was January 25th. Jim dropped off his 3 children at Glenelg Beach before heading off on a 3-day sales trip to Snowtown, of all places, which isn't far. So that's still within South Australia.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a far business trip, but it was a sales trip for work. And this was during peak summertime. There was a heat wave during that summer as well. So the next day, because they must have had a great time at the beach, the children asked their mum if they could go back because it was especially hot that day. They lived close by, but because it was too hot, they didn't want to walk. They caught it was about a 5-minute bus ride down to the beach. And that was normal to let your children jump on a bus. It would have been maybe it was even free back then.
And on Australia Day, it probably was. To get down to the beach on Australia Day, it probably was free.
But imagine how
transport.
packed they would have been as well. It was normal to have them on there without mum and dad. So they took this bus ride down to the beach. They caught the bus at 8:45 a.m. and then mum said she expected them home back on the noon bus.
Yep.
So it gives them a couple of hours to play at the beach before the sun's at its strongest. However, noon came and gone. They didn't come home. And naturally, Nancy worried, especially when they didn't return on the 2 p.m. bus.
This is a world without mobile phones too.
Yeah.
So this is a world where you can't message your kid and say, where are you? Like, why are you late? The kids can't message and say, hey, I missed the bus. By the time parents would get to the point of worrying, damage is done. Yep.
Because at what point did they get taken? Was it pretty early into their trip there?
Yep.
Come 2 p.m. That's the whole day gone.
That's it.
So Jim ended up returning from his trip early. He was home probably around 3 o'clock by that point, and he immediately drove to the beach to look for them. I think Nancy stayed at home. But after having no luck, he returned home, and then both of them went and searched the streets. They went to friends' houses. Have you seen them? Did they come here for whatever reason? And by 5:30 that same day, still hadn't found them. No one had seen them. They went to Glenelg Police Station and reported the children missing. Now, the police were actually really quick to help. They searched the Glenelg beach, I believe, that same day that they went to them. So it's not like they said you have to wait a certain amount of hours to classify them as missing, because this was probably pretty scary in a place like this.
Especially all three of them.
Yeah. So I think they were just hoping that they were lost. So the police helped. They helped them search the areas, hoping that they just lost track of time or something. They searched just along Glenelg Beach, didn't find them, and then it expanded to the sand hills in the ocean. I believe they had boats and that in case they went, swimming and couldn't get back and had drowned. They searched nearby buildings and out to the airport, which the airport's relatively close to Glenelg, if you know South Australia. They'd checked rail lines and even interstate roads. They're pretty far out. Like, this was a pretty, I think to them it was just...
That's a really thorough search, even for nowadays standards.
Yeah, and they did that relatively quickly.
Wow.
And within 24 hours, the entire nation knew about the missing Beaumont children.
Wow. In 1966. That's crazy.
That's actually really quick, considering it's not like we have TikTok back then to just be able to post online and, post on a police website and say the children are missing.
Yeah.
So that's actually really, really quick for them. So within 3 days of all this happening, on January 29th, the Adelaide Sunday Mail led with the headline of "Sex Crime Now Feared."
Wow.
So it jumped pretty quickly. There was no evidence. So there was a lot of witnesses that had come forward.
Yeah.
There was a lot of repeated of the same thing, that there had been witnessed several locations over Glenelg, but with a man, I believe he had light brown hair, thin face, and that he was in his mid-30s. And it was multiple people had said the same thing. So I think that's where they probably got that sex crime. And in those times, it was a big thing to post something like that.
Yeah.
To put so much fear, I guess, into...
That would have... Now we see that and we go, okay, because it's that shoved in our face. But back in those days, seeing that as a headline, that would have
freak everyone out.
Terrified people.
So highlighting the rapidly evolving fear that the children had been abducted and murdered by a sex offender. It was probably that era in Australia where a lot of sex offenders it was being more advertised.
Yeah, moving from it just being something that was kept hush-hush to something that people were now acknowledging was wrong.
Yes, and despite this, the initial award was only 250 Australian dollars. I think I said that earlier, yeah. So that probably would have been a lot of money back then, but not $1 million. So they did multiple investigations with it. The Padawalonga, I don't know if I'm saying that correctly.
Very close.
How do you say it?
Padawalonga.
Wow. Padawalonga Boat Haven was drained on 29th January after a woman told police that she had spoken with 3 children who were with similar descriptions of what the Beaumont children were wearing at the time. And that was near 7 p.m. the day of day of their disappearance.
They drained it.
So they drained that entire Boat Haven.
Wow.
One lady said she's seen them close to there around 7 p.m.
They put in so much effort for this case.
Which is...
It makes it even sadder that they were never found. And
they couldn't find anything. But then when you go back to where we think they ended up, then I'm like, how are some so helpful and then others are so not helpful? But yeah, so the police cadets and members of the emergency operations group searched the area and nothing was found. They drained that, nothing was found. They had several prime suspects who... I think some looked close to the descriptions of what people were saying. So it was a lot of people said they witnessed them playing, happy, smiling, laughing with a man. I think I said tall man with fair to light brown hair and a thin face in his mid-30s. They said he had a suntan complexion, he was wearing swim trunks. He looked like he was supposed to be at the beach.
Yeah.
But they said that they appeared relaxed. They were enjoying themselves. So he could have been, luring them away, luring them off. Hey, I'm this nice man, whoever he was.
I think I remember seeing something somewhere. Sorry if this spoils something for you.
No, you're all
But
good.
I think I remember seeing something somewhere when the many, many times I've read Beaumont children stuff, that they believe he had met with the kids the day before as well.
Yeah, that's what someone said, yeah.
Yeah, and that's why they were so at ease with him the following day. I think a lot of people think that was Bevan Spencer von Einem.
One of the suspects.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, so apparently that man that they walked off with, apparently he approached witnesses as well. And he was saying that he asked if anyone had been near the children's belongings because their money was taken or missing. But obviously no one had seen their belongings or anything and said no. And apparently he went off and changed while they waited for him. And then the group was seen walking off together from the beach sometime later, which they estimate was around lunchtime, about 12:15, from witness stories and where they had seen them. About 2.5 hours later, another witness, Miss Daphne Gregory, she said she sighted the children with the man. the same descriptions,
Yeah.
who she observed carrying an airline bag similar to one owned by Jane. So that was her bag.
Yeah, it could have been all their stuff in there.
Yeah. It's sad because the Beaumont parents described their children, especially Jane, as particularly shy. So it's really odd to have seen them. That's why a lot of people believe that they met him the day before.
Yeah.
Because, like they say, she was shy. Why would she have just
so you would
been
have had
so
to
okay?
really work to gain their trust.
Yeah. But even as a 9 years old, that was the oldest one, was 9.
Yeah.
That's so young. Apparently, one thing that also led them to believe that the kids had met the man prior to that is because apparently a chance remark that the mum, like she said that it didn't seem very significant at the time, but Anna told the mum that Jane had a boyfriend down at the beach. So he could have been early mid-30s, I was saying, like someone could still look quite young at that age.
And he might have been being friendly and giggly and touchy-feely. And
so she was, as a 9-year-old.
Yeah, you've got a boyfriend.
Yeah, teasing her. Yeah, so Anna was 7.
Yeah.
The mum thought she just meant a playmate. She took no further notice until the disappearance. Now, also a shopkeeper at a nearby bakery, he reported that Jane had bought pasties and a meat pie with $1 note. Do we have notes?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they only stopped using notes in like 83, I reckon. 83, 85.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that was before I came to
I was going to
Australia.
say things that happened before, A, before you were born, B, before you're in the country.
Yeah, so they thought that was odd because she would have been in there probably quite a bit.
Yeah.
Which was just, they thought was odd for her to have bought that.
And $1 note would have been a considerable amount of money for a kid to have at that time.
Yeah.
It'd be like a 6-year-old walking in somewhere with $100 note now.
Yeah.
People are going to notice that.
The mum actually said that she had given them only 6 shillings and 6 pence, enough for their bus fare and lunch, not $1 note.
Yeah.
So where did they get that from? So he was obviously buying them lunch, buying them snacks, buying them.
So it makes you think, was he the one that took their money? So then he could go, oh, I'll help you find it. Then the kids trust him because he's helping them.
Yes.
And then, here, I'll buy you lunch. You can't catch the bus home now because you've got no money.
Yeah,
I'll drive you home.
That's actually a very valid point. Here, let me hold your bag for you.
Yep.
That's a little...
Because if someone had taken their money, they wouldn't be able to get the bus home.
But they could have just walked relatively close. But still, that would have, as a 9-year-old, you're not going to think rationally. Yep. Even though... Because you weren't really told back then.
And they were probably thinking they were going to get in trouble for losing their money too.
And being late or whatever. When they seen him walking around, it was like 12:15 at that point, they said. So getting into his car.
Yep. So they would have been thinking, we've got to get home. We told Mum would be home on the noon bus.
Yeah.
Yep.
We still haven't made any money or found it. Apparently there was an initial statement that the Beaumont children were seen walking alone at 2:55 p.m. away from the beach along Jetty Road.
Wow.
So probably heading towards home. And a witness postman, he knew the children well, apparently. So he was regarded as probably a reliable witness. And he said that the children were holding hands, laughing along the main street, just, being all happy. Even though they were like holding hands and laughing, the police couldn't determine why, who people were regarding as such reliable children who were now already an hour late home would just be strolling along and being all happy and skipping and shit. The postman then contacted the police 2 days later after his initial statement and said he thought he saw them in the morning. So they may have probably been going in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
There was also several months later, a woman reported that on the night of the disappearance, a man accompanied by 2 girls and 1 boy entered a neighbouring house in her area that she actually believed to be empty. So why would they go into a random house? Later, the woman said she'd seen the boy walking out alone along a lane, probably like next to the house, where he was pursued and roughly caught by the man. Wouldn't you report that?
Wow. Yeah.
The next morning, the house appeared to be deserted again, and she neither saw the man nor the child again. Like no one was there.
Yeah.
But wouldn't you think if you've seen a child, I don't know.
I suppose they could have just thought that it was
because
he was being
4.
naughty, and it might have been his dad, and they just minded their business.
But what's roughly? When they say roughly, what does that mean? But they couldn't establish as to why she couldn't tell them that earlier, why she didn't provide it earlier. And reported sightings of the children continued for about a year after their disappearance. So imagine that you're continually getting phone calls and witnesses
keep getting
thinking,
that little bit of hope.
So the Beaumont case attracted international attention, and on 8th of November 1966, Gerard, do not know how to say it. All I've got in my head is croissant. It doesn't even have
Croissant?
croissant. I've still just got croissant. I'm sorry.
Wait, is he a good person or a bad person?
He's just a psychic.
Okay.
So I'm sorry. Croissant.
Just call him Jerry.
He was a Dutch psychic, and he was brought into Australia, which this is really weird to think of, that in those times.
Yeah.
That's what they relied on.
Yeah.
In the 60s. So they brought him into Australia to assist with the search, which caused a massive uproar in the press. Unsurprisingly, his efforts proved unsuccessful because his story changed from a day-to-day basis, apparently, and he didn't bring up any clues. He found nothing. He identified a spot at a warehouse near the children's home in which he believed their bodies had been buried inside the remains of an old brick kiln. The property owners were actually reluctant to excavate, but then I think when I can't remember if they had issues, they just thought his claims were like stupid. So I'm not demolishing my building just because a psychic is saying, they were saying they didn't do anything as well. No remains were obviously found. The public actually helped raise $40,000 to have the building demolished. So then they ended up, I mean, that would have bought them out in those. That would have been a lot of money back then. No remains were found, nor any evidence that tied them to the Beaumont family. In 1996, the building identified by that Dutch psychic, I'm not going to try and say his name again, by Gerard, was actually undergoing partial demolition. So the owners allowed them to come back and actually search the whole site because they were like, we didn't do anything. But no, nothing was found again because they didn't do it. Now, during this whole period when it became quite big in the media and the story got out to obviously international, they started receiving, I think it was 2 years after the children went missing, they started receiving hoax letters. I believe they initially got 2 letters. One was supposedly written by Jane. How sad would that have been to anything in the form of pretending to be her? And another letter by the man claiming to be the one keeping the children. So the envelopes showed a postmark of Dandenong in Victoria. Her letter made it sound like they were relatively okay. And that, they were fine. They were just living with who they refer to as the man. They didn't, give him a name. But the police, I think, believed at the time the letters, that they were real letters because they compared them to some writing that Jane had. The man, or who they called the man, he appointed himself the guardian of the children, and he was willing, he said, to give them back if the parents cooperated. They organised a meeting place. He didn't ask for money or anything like that. He was going to give them back at this nominated meeting place. So they would have, you would have known that there was cops helping them. They drove to this location. The cops obviously followed, but nobody appeared. And then later, I don't know how long, whether it's days or a couple of weeks, they got a third letter, also reportedly from Jane, stating that the man had realised that one of the detectives was there and decided to keep the children because the Beaumonts had betrayed him, betrayed his trust. So he decided to keep the children, he said. There were no further letters after that. And in 1992, they did tests and things become better. So they had better exams that they could do, and they did forensic examinations on the letters and showed they were a hoax. So imagine getting all these letters. How
pathetic do you need to be to do that to a family going through the worst thing possible?
And they ended up, like I said, DNA, all the testing came out. It was getting better. They could find things. They actually ended up finding, like, fingerprint technology. They found who wrote the letters. By the time he found him, it was a 41-year-old man. He was obviously a teenager at the time of writing it. As a joke. That's what he said. It was as a joke. So because such a long period of time had passed since he wrote those as a teenager to when he was caught as a 41-year-old, he didn't get charged with anything. There wasn't, like, they didn't pursue it because it's not, technically he didn't hurt anyone. He just wrote dumb letters. They could have charged him probably with, like, not tampering with, like, an investigation, because they obviously led them in the wrong direction kind of thing. But so they had some later developments, and in November 2013 they actually excavated, it was in the back of a North Plimpton factory, which belonged to one of the main suspects. His name was Harry, I think it's Pips, P-H.
Oh, yep.
I-double-P-S. He was a possible suspect in the case. I think it started off because 2 guys had actually confessed that they had dug a hole in one of Pip's, I don't know if it was in the actual factory or just, like, on the property of the factory. They said they had dug a hole for him back in that time when the children went missing. So I think that's where they excavated. They actually didn't find any children or in relation to the Beaumont children, but they did, I believe, or they did some testing. It was geophysical testing, which identified disturbed soil. I believe it was just like animal bones or something.
Yeah.
They didn't actually find anything in relation to the Beaumont children. Now, there was the name that you did mention. Was it Bevan Spencer von Einem?
Yeah.
Einem?
Yep.
So he was also a suspect. I think this was the one. Yes, that's the one that I thought. So he didn't actually confess to anyone. I think he confessed to someone in prison.
Yeah.
Or they believed he was a suspect just because of his previous crimes.
Yeah.
He was actually sentenced to life imprisonment in 1984 for murdering Richard Kelvin. He was a teenage son. Oh, what the fuck?
Yep.
Wait.
Mm-hmm.
What? I didn't realize that. So that's dang. This goes deep.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So I just realized he was the one that was actually charged with murdering Richard Kelvin, who was the teenage son of an Adelaide newsreader, Rob Kelvin. So this person was actually sentenced to life imprisonment for murdering this newsreader's son.
Yeah.
And I remember that. I'd heard about that.
Yeah. Because he was taken from a bus stop on O'Connell Street.
That's wild.
But I want to do an episode on von Einem.
Yeah.
Because he actually did 3 murders and only got found guilty for the...
Was he actually a piece of shit? Or was he... Oh, okay, yeah. So they just...
And there was 2 others that he did as well.
Yeah.
But he could only be found guilty of that one. But they'll never, ever, 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 ever let him out. Yeah. And that's where people think that he was the one doing the kidnapping for the family.
So he was the thin, tall...
Yep.
Wow.
Because there's actually, I don't know if it says it in there, there's actually photos of him at Glenelg Beach the next day watching the searches. There's photos of him standing in the sand
I think
dunes.
I did see that, yeah. So police and prosecutors publicly stated that they believed von Einem, he had accomplices and possibly involved in the murders.
Yeah.
No accomplices were ever charged, and von Einem refused to cooperate with investigators. Like, he refused to say that he took those children.
Yeah. Von Einem has said that when his mum dies, he'll confess to everything he's ever done. So he said there's much, much more, but he's not confessing to anything until his mum dies.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know I said we weren't planning, but maybe we really need to do an episode on this guy.
That's why I laughed when you said the other day you were doing the Beaumont kids, because I was like, I wanted to do an episode on him.
Yeah.
Because he's twisted.
He seems like I think it's him then that was saying to someone that he had taken them and sewn them together or something like that. Like, what the fuck?
Which would definitely make sense because he was a doctor.
Really? So he will, that's and
one of the other people that he killed, he stitched back together.
Oh, really?
Yep.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
See, I don't know whether, do you reckon he, obviously if he sewn them together, they weren't alive?
God, I hope not. Because I don't know how much of this you want to keep in, but he would kill men, gay men, and I think it was the first one he killed. They found him floating in the Port River.
What the fuck?
He'd completely dismembered him, disemboweled him, and put his legs up into his torso, cut all of his tattoos off and stitched them inside of him. Basically put everything into his torso, stitched him up, wrapped him in blue rope and chucked him in the Port River.
Imagine fucking finding that. What the hell? That happened here?
Yep.
What
and
the
then he took another guy from, I think, under the bridge down by the zoo, where there's that old, hangout down there. He dumped him somewhere along Chain of Ponds, I think, if I remember correctly.
Wow.
Just dumped him on the side of the road. And then Richard Kelvin, he'd had a friend over and they were stuffing around just being idiots. And Richard Kelvin had his dog collar on, his started dog collar. It was actually his dog's collar. Him and his mate were just being silly. And then he walked his mate to the bus stop, still had the collar on. So they believed that he would have seen that, assumed that he was gay, and grabbed him because he thought that he was gay.
Wow. So Bevan Spencer von Einem is a piece of shit.
Absolutely.
But he was actually known to frequent Glenelg Beach to perv on the changing rooms. And he was actually described as preoccupied with children.
I read a book about him years ago called Bloodstain, and it was just, he's special. He's a twisted one.
So where is he at now?
He's at Port Augusta prison now, and he'll be there for the rest of his life. He runs the whole division of the prison that he's in. He's very well looked after in prison, which is why everyone thinks that he was doing the kidnappings for the family murders.
Yeah, because why would they treat him well?
Yep. because they basically think he's being paid to keep his mouth shut. And yeah, he said once his mum dies, he'll tell everything. I just hope that she goes before he does and we get to know everything he did.
Do you reckon he'd fib though and say things?
Yeah, I reckon he'd probably fuck around a little bit because he's just been there forever. And apparently he's very manipulative, very conniving. He'll ask for something, get told no, and he'll just be like, we'll see. And then he'll have it.
He's 100% getting paid.
Yep.
He definitely took them then.
I think he probably took them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he took them out there. His job was probably to collect them, take them out there, and then dispose of them. And then I think he probably along the line somewhere just went on his own tangent, and that's when he killed these other boys.
But because they never really had any concrete proof, and a lot of he said, she said, or someone just saying something in prison, it didn't really match up with their descriptions. So I think they just never had anything concrete to go on.
I think too the fact that they've never found anything. They haven't found their shoes, their bags, their towels. Like they've got nothing to, they can't pick a hair off a towel and go, hey, we can run this through Ancestry now and work out that this person's related to this person.
Yeah, because it's still an not open, what do they call it? It's a cold case.
Yeah.
So I believe it's still a cold case at the moment. And like I said, the lead investigator still has $1 million reward on it.
But I feel like it's been that long now. No one's going to come forward. Unless the person who did it opens their mouth, no one's going to go, okay, yeah, he borrowed my car to go kidnap the kids.
Yeah.
They've had 60 odd years to do it.
It goes deep, but I think with the case, like I said in the beginning, it opened a lot of people's eyes to what they let their children do without them and at what times of the day, and became a bit more parental.
It was the case that broke Australia.
Yeah.
Like everything changed after that. It would have been a very, very different world on the 25th of January to what it was on the 27th. People would have been locking doors that they didn't lock before and walking kids to school. And
imagine that, how people would feel being like, I was at that beach or I let my children go to that beach. What if it was them that were taken?
Yep. I saw that man with the kids. Why didn't I say something? Why didn't I stop them?
You didn't think anything wrong of it. You didn't think
that's it.
that would happen.
There would have been that many people down there that day, right?
Yeah.
There would have been that many people down there that day that it's a wonder anyone can even actually remember them being there.
So they had Magic Mountain back then?
I don't know. But surely they would have had a carnival
They demolished that
there.
before.
Oh, really?
Yeah, now we've got the beach house.
Oh, wow. That's so sad. I'm so sad for you. Magic Mountain was amazing. It was such a fun place.
Ghetto.
Yeah, it was so good. And you used to have to you'd go in and you'd pay money and then they'd exchange it for tokens. Yeah. And you'd have your Magic Mountain tokens that you could use on all the rides and stuff.
Wow, that's a bit of a throwback.
It would be absolutely astonishing to see the kids found.
Yeah.
That would be, let's be real. We know they're gone.
Yeah. I think it's more than not knowing. I don't know if you'd want to know what happened to them, though, at this point.
Depending on what you believe in, the parents would know now because they'd be with them now.
Yeah. So the mum and dad, they obviously continued their search forever. They always had hope that they would find the kids, but they separated. So apparently a lot of people believed it was related to the Adelaide Oval abductions in 1973. Yeah. So what, children got taken from there?
Yes, there was two little girls, Joanne Ratcliffe and Christy Gordon. It was a similar sort of thing. They were very similar ages. And one of them, the older girl, went to take the younger girl to the toilet and they got grabbed by a man who matched the same description.
Really?
Yep. And got taken out of Adelaide Oval and never seen again. They've never been found. Nothing. Exactly the same.
That's shit.
But someone literally walked out of Adelaide Oval with these two girls under his arms. And people saw him walk out with the two girls kicking and screaming.
And didn't do anything.
Yep.
Wow.
And he just walked out.
What was I going to say? So the Beaumont case resulted in one of the largest police investigations in Australian history.
Wow.
Which, from what I've explained, the efforts they went to and how quickly they managed to do things, I believe that. And it actually remains one of Australia's most infamous cold cases, even after decades. And in January 2018, the Premier at the time, Jay Weatherill, I think it was, he said that he's never given up on the case and that they actually have a policy that no murder investigation ends up in a closed case file.
Wow.
The state government also continues to maintain that 1 million. So it's actually the state government that is providing that, not the lead investigator. Sorry, I correct myself there, which is crazy. So the state government is wanting that solved, which I guess is a good thing now.
Yeah.
So the kidnapping was actually viewed by many social commentators as a significant event in the evolution of Australian society. So that was where I was explaining how I think it just really opened their eyes on how they supervised children, their own children, on a daily basis.
Yep.
Because, like we said, at the time, it was never questioned as to why they were there on their own. The parents actually remained at that home for quite some time after. And it was because Nancy specifically, she stated, I think even in an interview, that it would be dreadful if the children returned home and their mum and dad weren't there.
Oh my
How
God.
sad. Over the years, as new leads and new theories emerged, the Beaumonts always cooperated. Now, they later divorced and lived separately, having resolved to live their final years away from the public. Even after all those hoax letters, all that, I don't think they wanted that anymore.
Yeah.
And probably came to that, not realization, but maybe just finally coming to that, to terms that they weren't coming back.
It would take your whole life. Every minute of every day would be
you'd be thinking
that
about
thought.
That. Yeah, you wouldn't want to work. You wouldn't want to do anything.
You'd almost have to hit a point where you just go, okay, what's done is done, because you've given your whole life to that.
Even when they did eventually split and sell that Somerton Park home, they always kept the police up to date with their current addresses, so that if, anything ever, because it's still open, it's a still open case, they're just, I guess accepting of it, but they just want the truth of what happened to their children. Nancy died in an Adelaide nursing home, I think in 2019. She was 92, so she'd lived her whole life. And Grant then died in April 2023. He was 97. So they were both, they lived their full lives.
They held on so long.
So that's really sad. Like they really dedicated their whole life to it, to try and find them.
And not even to just lose one, to lose all three, your whole family gone in one hit.
Mm-hmm. That's horrendous to think.
Poor family.
Well, that is the Beaumont children. I don't know how to end episodes, especially on sad notes.
Yeah, that's, even though there's no absolute outcome, it's still such a sad case.
Yeah.
Because it would be better to know what's happened and for them to have been able to bury them or say goodbye or
have a place for them to visit them.
That's it. They would have spent their whole life, every time they saw a little girl move a certain way or a little boy that looked a certain way, to be,
is that
he? Because I know for a long time there was a whole theory that they were taken by like a family who couldn't have kids, and that they were brainwashed into believing they were other people. And which maybe to Grant, you might have been able to do that because he was young enough. I don't know if you'd be able to do that to the girls. Yeah. Yep.
Well, that's really scary.
But wherever they are, I hope whatever happened was at the very least quick, so they didn't suffer. Yeah, they're with their parents again now.
Yeah, that's a really sad note to end on. Thanks for listening, guys.
Bye.
Bye.